interpreted the question. So the portability of substance information, many of you have tried this now, I think, was at any point along either a registration process or waiting for a substance. To further export that information and get it as that JSON file. And then to somebody, and then, or you can file and through some exchange mechanism, somebody else can import it and register it themselves. As of right now, our main, at a software level, we're just making sure that these components work, that the map works, that they can be both exported and imported, and that the data that seems to be in one system ends up to be in the other, and that's well validated. That's our main goal. Beyond that, in terms of what actual mechanism one person might use to communicate with another person or another system, that's beyond our software. We can't address in very strong detail, but perhaps the FDA colleagues make some notes about, if they use the software, what they would tend to think. Larry, I don't know if you have any comments. Yeah. Okay. So I think what we want to make sure is that's possible is you're able to take this data, you're able to save individual records, and what might even be useful is for us to try, for those who are interested in helping us, just send information between systems, just to say, can I save this file, give this to you, open this file, do you see it, does it seem to be the same, and having that little level of validation would be quite useful, and we can get those exercises well demonstrated. And I'd like to participate in this.
If you have a particular substance that you've actually gone through, obviously not confidential information, but some sort of patient process, and you want to show us how you did it and whether or not that'd be consistent with, for instance, best practice at FDA, you could email that export file, right? We'd be able to see exactly where you were.
Yeah, we should create something.
Yeah, a great first step would be for users here to do some of that instead of us.
Be accustomed with the application that by living.
Was that?
Just be accustomed with the application.
Exactly. No, we encourage that.
Well, old file type like the gentleman here, he has a local installation. He wants to get all our data, public data. Will we providing that in the near future?
So certainly get all the same access that all data that users are seeing is available through the API, and you could just iterate through the API directly and get all that information out. If that's what you'd like.
Yeah. But it'd be like an import function, between, for more records, not a single record. If we export it.
As of right now, if you have a given search, for instance, here, just through the API, which we'll get into more tomorrow, you can export the full record set. This is the third icon here. There's a large number. You'll see this is a JSON array. It's a list of you're able to save this. So I will call this those substances for admin user, just for browsing at least. One a rather awkward way that you can try this is just to show that it's possible. There's only to see what something looks like by just clicking import set. So a set as an admin, only admins can do this currently, and it's sort of a backdoor way of doing this. Load a file, and you can load in the individual record that you'd like to load in, and it should show you there. So if all the ones that you're seeing red, that you see it says import in front of them, that means they're not actually local to the system. This is just you browsing some data set that someone has sent you. You'll be able to look through and say, this one's like this, and so that's now the general procedures for doing this. From the interface level are very limited. You can export and you can import to view, but in terms of trying to import fully for registration, you have to click each one of them and then click submit and then have to go through, which is a little bit cumbersome. Alternatively, we can choose the API, how you can just, you can register them using a script. But of course, we'll have some function in the future to allow you just to step on it or something.
So the actual details of merging
It's that complicated.
compounds with your current database exactly
Yeah.
get quite complicated, especially down to the properties level.
Right,
trying to,
right.
you know,
No,
properties you want to include. So, but we're going through that process right now with the
Right.
FDA data migration. We're hoping that the tools that we're building for the FDA data migration will be able to repurpose, you know, for this task of being able to import a set of compounds and resolve the conflict.
But we don't, did the local installation, we could probably build a script for them to use the API
Oh, yeah.
and bring everything in, and we'll make that available at some point.
So we'll talk about it more tomorrow, but for doing the migration that we've done from the FDA, we've written several iterations of scripts and things to try to use the API better for.
We can export everything in our current, say, Health Canada or full implement and have it in a file, and then just write a script to bring all that in, not about duplication at this point. That, again, that's, we hope this is fairly clean as far as duplicating records.
It is fairly trivial to dump out all of the records.
All the records.
Import them into another.
Bring them back in, and that's what some of the ones who.
There's some additional bookkeeping if they've already imported an older snapshot of the database and
No,
they want to replace it.
that's always the problem that we'll have, so clean install.
So that's what I think would be the goal of that script,
Yeah.
is not to do install.
Right, but that will take a lot more. But now, we could give them a clean install just to say they blow this away, they have anything on there, and then they bring it in or something like that.
So just to reiterate, the current state is that we have a fairly well-defined JSON schema to represent these substances. Proof concept ways to be able to exchange between systems and between users and so on. Left to do is to establish certain functions for front end to be able to do the same that the API can do, and also to establish certain merging and duplication, duplication.
Right, that's,
certain record fields. We have in place record processes for a single substance to be able to do fairly well, but at a large scale, that's something we'd like to be easier than having a human being look at every single part and make sure things are okay.
I mean, perhaps the comment is just that up to this point, we've just been submitting records into the system, but they have not been approved, right? Actually, there is a formal, you know, two-step submission process where first the record is submitted and then somebody comes in to actually approve that the registration is valid for that substance, right? So we're looking, you know, for an update scheme, all the conflicts are still going to have to be resolved in some manner by that editor, right? And it could be that I accept all changes because I believe Health Canada is the primary source, or my data is the primary data source, and reject all changes. It could be, you know, something like that, but it could also be that all those resolutions really, I mean, those conflicts have to be resolved by hand.
Right, no, it's just a mix, I mean, when you merge dates, there's stuff that isn't in, you can let in, and then there's stuff that is, you scroll through.
Il y avait mis un support for linking un substance. C'est pas que je suis difficile de correct.
I haven't showed history yet, right?
I just don't know alternative either. So both of these are actually very relevant to this. Now, the mechanism that we use, and this is done through the API and needs to be incorporated in a front-end mechanism, is that if someone had a substance definition they were sending to you and they said, well, this has to be identical to this, you have to make a decision on whether it is they want to just take in some of the information they have, maybe adding additional names and so on, something in there, or the record have it as an alternative definition for that substance while still merging it. But we do this somewhat, semi-annually, and there would be procedures that we think we could.
What we would, Tyler, is the alternative definition, say, had the same inchi key or the same quaternary form, right? We wouldn't call that an alternative definition.
That's right.
I mean,
I'd say this, Larry. Right now, any user can overform to do that. They would like.
Yeah.
They would their specific quaternary form registered as an alternative definition. Really, it's meant for things that aren't efficiently indexed or are not easily visually found. So like ring opening and ring closing automeric forms, these things like, just moving double bonds around in the Well, but and benzene, for instance, that obviously, if I just have, dye substituted benzene, and I decide to have a double bond in this configuration versus this one, that would be ridiculous to give those two. Value to, I'm saying that I think business processes should encourage. So.
It's those other forms that are not easily normalizable.
Right. But if it's somebody from even the orientation and registering that as an alternative definition.
That's right. Yeah. I should just mention very quickly that the alternative definitions full records are will be shown here. If you add new definitions, you'll be able to see what those alternatives are. And it could be that one of the common mechanisms for really just is to take their definition, put it in definition, put it in as an alternative, and then merge the other data with it. Google probably do more tomorrow. So is there any about portability of substance information and exchange? Seem to be a hot topic, so I'd like to see what you do.
Yeah, identifier, maybe check on identifiers or clash with each other. They're kind of strange.
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So the default, I should probably show you this in terms of. Let me just take one step back. So there are two types of identifiers. There's the internal system identifier, which is just used for bookkeeping, very simply, just a UUID. So as you know, UUID or GUID, it's technically possible that you have. It's statistically possible, but very likely that you'll have a collision between two. So that's something that could happen, but I don't think it's something that needs to be something to work at a significant level. The approval identifiers. The algorithm is changeable at this point. Through the API, you can decide what you want, what kind of identifier you want your system to produce. And I'll get into this a little bit more tomorrow, but you can specify what the prefix is, what the sub is, whether sequential or random, and what is and what the bit that you would use for enumeration is. Some of those things you guarantee. For sequential, you can guarantee that system low, of course, they're unique because they're sequential. If they're random, one of the checks as it goes through and tries to enumerate these to make sure that is not already used in the system as it goes forward. Somebody else trying to use the same algorithm that you're using and then pretending across two systems that the whole ID would be.
Yeah, we want to somehow prohibit our algorithm from being their system.
Yeah. So right now we do not. The default version does not come with the uni algorithm, which is what the EA uses.
Yeah.
This is a variation of the uni algorithm, which is a very simple one, where we just put the letter DEF in front of it, stands for default. It would be very obvious to somebody if something was generated from exactly this version without any changes. But we would encourage, and as soon as something goes farther than just the evaluation, for it to go beyond that. As far as identifiers go, I just want to make the point that the system is not really designed to have two competing central authorities both issue an official ID. Of course, if the best case scenario would still be there would be one organization that issues these IDs. This is just software that would facilitate that happening.
You're going to synchronize systems.
Yeah. So we have, it's mostly, absolutely. So Yep. So we've been testing a few procedures there, but for the most part, we've just been focusing on just being able to import and export basic things through scripts. No direct synchronization, a bit LDS, but we have some ideas that we think we can make work. Getting a approach of kind of you've worked off and how far have you gone. But, very good question. I think we will have to address that later on. You can think, but we have to help you do it by basically writing API scripts, which is not ideal, but